Hello, Martin here. I want to talk about water in California. There is a water crisis. There's a water crisis in so many parts of the world, it's unreal. The Bible says there was going to be a water shortage, a water crisis. There's going to be fires all over the world. You read Revelations and you'll see what I mean. Um, but right now, let's deal with the water crisis. There is a water crisis and there's a drought in California. And there's a drought in a lot of places, but especially here in California, it's where I live. So I'm dealing with it. Been dealing with it for the last so many years, 7, 8, 9 years, and it's just getting worse. They say this year's 2021 is supposed to be probably the worst on record. The problem with the water crisis doesn't have to be so much of a problem for domestic wells like it is. And the reason why I say that is because there's three main reasons we have a water crisis for domestic wells, and it's a crisis because people that own their own home and have an acre or two or something like that and they live on a well, their water comes from a well that they have on their land, they're going dry all over the state. So there's three main reasons for that. One is politicians. I'm going to say politicians is number one because they can pass laws to do certain things. Two is greedy farmers. I can say that because I'm a truck driver and I've hauled tomatoes, I've hauled grapes, I've hauled walnuts, I've hauled almonds, depending on you know how you want to pronounce that. And I've hauled uh, onions and garlic and everything else, and rice. I've hauled lots of rice. So I've been around farmers and I know their mentality. To them, urban sprawl means farmland is being taken up, and we've heard the news stories. 10 years ago or so, 15 years ago, about how urban sprawl is taking up farmland. Well, the farmers have this angst against civilians uh, and politicians, yet they bribe the politicians to not pass any laws to put moratoriums on water. And so instead, politicians are allowing domestic wells to go dry. And that's the truth. I know because my well is going dry. We have 2.25 acre. We don't grow orchards. We have a couple of horses, got a couple of cows, and we bathe, we drink water, we use the water to water our little tiny square piece of grass that we have back here. It's about probably a 25 by 25 foot space. Doesn't take much water to do that, to water that. And then just got a couple of things in the vegetable garden. Not very big, you know. It's not. I don't have a whole lot of waters, but this is my personal well. This is my well. Everybody that has a well on their property, it's their own personal well, and people take pride in it. Everybody takes pride in their place. They have their own well. They don't have to rely on outside sources for water. So the politicians don't pass. And here's why I say politicians are number one culprit, because they don't pass any laws to restrict farmers. They need to stand down to restrict farmers from growing, especially in a drought, because there's other places in the country they can grow whatever food we need in America to grow, or excuse me, to eat. There's places in this right now. It's a drought on the West Coast, but man, all right now it's June, and there's flooding in Texas. There's flooding in Oklahoma. There's all these places over there. There's a bunch of flooding going on the east side of the United States. They got a lot of water. They do. They got way more water than we do. I mean, tons more water. You know, the mouth of the Mississippi down there when it goes into the ocean, what is it, 10 miles wide or something? They got a lot of water and all the rivers that feed into it. And, you know, Minnesota's called the land of 1,000 lakes. They got the Great Lakes, which is full of water. There's a lot of water on the other side of the Rockies from here. The politicians need to pass some laws to tell the farmers to stand down. Farmers make a ton of money. They make tens of billions of dollars off farming in this state. I'm going to show you something on TV here, on YouTube, and it shows there's a couple of things you can look at to look at what happens in areas where bore wells are drawn. Look at this right here. Look at it. Where'd it go? Hold on. I don't know how to do this. How do you turn this thing around? I don't know how to turn this around, but I'm going to just show it to you this way. See that right there? Looks backwards. But see that? In India. H2O, India's water crisis. Here's another one on India. And there's more. Countries are building economic empires by controlling the world's waters. And on and on. So, our well's going dry. We got about 1.5 feet of water left. The drillers, I talked to the driller and they told me, sorry, my eyes are not that good. I'm 63. I was trying to see how much time this is taking. I don't want to take a whole bunch of time. But when I called the drillers and questioned them about our well, because a friend of mine came out and he's a well driller. He's been drilling for over 15 years. And we tested the well to see how deep the water was. And the water had dropped 18.5 feet. Since we got here, 18.5 feet. The well was drilled in 2004. We bought the house in 2014. Nobody lived in this house during that time. I'm not saying the water level down there below the ground didn't go down during that time. I don't know if it did or not, but I do know that nobody's lived in this house. We were the first people. We've been here 7 years. And the water tables dropped 18.5 feet during that time. So, and our pump is sitting in 1.5 feet of water. It's at the 100-foot level. So the water table is now at 98.5 feet below my feet. 3 reasons in California. One is politicians. When I talked to the driller, and my well guy told me that when they drill a domestic well, they always drop the pump at least 50 feet below the surface level of the groundwater. And so on our well, they probably would have, he said they would have drilled at 200 feet, which would have been a standard, an appropriate standard that, you know, the homeowner can kind of be rest assured he's always going to have water, but they didn't. And he says they never take first water. And what this guy did here, they hit water at 80 feet. They sunk the pump at 100 feet. The well is drilled at, according to the county, 117 feet. Well, that pump, if you look on the internet, when they drill a domestic well, the recommendation is 35 to 40 feet. You sink the pump that is in your well, 35 to 40 feet below the static water level, which is basically, when they say static water level, that's the level of the groundwater below your feet, where it begins. That's the static level. So the pump should have been about 40 feet below that. They didn't. This company that my friend works for, he's my wife's stepson, he said they would have put it about 50 feet below static level just to be safe. And so now here we are, and I'm out of water. And where I live, there's a whole bunch of people that's out of water, and it's because there's no moratorium set by the government to say you have to drill this well this deep so these people have water. Instead, what he says, well, the homeowner said stop there. And so they stopped there. As long as he got water, they bought this place. They didn't buy this place. They built this place. And they said, as long as you got water, I'm good. I'm good with that. Just stop right there. And that's what that driller did. no integrity whatsoever, no integrity at all. And so that homeowner basically kicked that can down the road to me, and it's hit me unexpectedly. I mean, it's like a blow to the back of the head, a punch in the chest, a double punch to the gut. That's what it did. Because you know what? To get a driller to come out where I live, or to get a driller to come out anywhere in California, there's a waiting period. You can't get somebody to come out. By the time you get a driller to come out, you're going to have water, potable water, hauled into a tank, which I don't own. Those tanks cost I don't know, I think they're about $1,000 or something like that. I have to get a couple of them. We have a couple of horses, a couple of cows, and then ourselves. You know, it's terrible. So 3 reasons. 1 is the politicians. 2, it's greedy farmers because they don't stand down. And 3, we're in a drought. That should tell everybody to stand down. Quit letting domestic wells dry up. It's evil to do that. Evil. You farmers, you got money. Every year, I worked with you guys for years. Every year after harvest, guess what you guys do? You guys go on your little hunting trips to Idaho, Alaska, vacation somewhere in some other part of the world or country or where it's nice because you got the money to do that. People like me don't have that luxury like you guys do. You should see all your farmers' homes. Every one of them are nice. Every single one of them that I've seen. And you just guys are greedy for more. Gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. It's sad. It's real sad. Not one farmer or politician can convince me otherwise of this thought, because I've worked with farmers. As recently as last year, I worked for some East Indian farmers, and guess what they told me they did? Well, the ag well that we had was only 8 inches, so we drilled a 12-inch well. Well, guess what? 12 inches is 4 inches bigger than 8. Do the math. That's 50% more water they're sucking out of the ground. And those wells are getting closer and closer to where we live. There's like, I don't know how many acres it is, 300 acres. They just put in 300 acres of walnuts. Then just about a mile down before that, they just put in 500 acres of walnuts. And then since I've lived here, you know how many orchards have been put in since I've lived here in 7 years? Just on the way to my house, from the freeway to my house, there must be, 5,000 acres that they've put in just since I've lived here. And none of them are on irrigation. They're not on the irrigation district because there's no more water to get from the irrigation district. They're sinking bore wells. Politicians have not put a moratorium on bore wells. You can put all you got to do to sink a well is go to the county, pay that county's permit fees to drill, and then the driller drills. And all they do is they say, well, we can do this for so much a foot. How deep do you want to go? And they'll say, well, whatever they say, and they pay them to drill. There's no moratorium. There's no laws to govern how deep you can go, how many wells you can put. All there is a fee that you pay a county for a permit to drill. That's it. Simple. No rules. No integrity. And wells are going dry. Domestic wells are going dry. There's no more water in them rivers and reservoirs than there already is, and it's already allocated out. Farmers get, depending on what government source you read, last year the one I read was 65%. Farmers get 65% of all water allocated in California. 65%. Farmers represent probably 1% of the population in California, yet they get 65% of the water. 1% of the population, that means there's a million, I'm saying there's a million farms, or excuse me, I don't know how many farms are in California, but you know, the amount of water they get versus the percentage of farmers, it's probably 1%. There's 30, probably 40 million people in California. 1% would represent about 600,000 or something like that. That's a lot of farms. I mean, big farms, and there's a lot of little ones. There's probably 1 million farms in California, but that's like a little over 1% of the population, not even 2%. And those people get 65% of the water and unrestricted well drilling. Unrestricted. And now domestic wells down around Fresno, wow, they're having huge problems. My stepson-in-law is telling me they have water problems. Their water level used to be 10, 15 feet below the surface of the ground. And now it's, I don't know what it is, 100 feet? They live in Lemoore, California. It's crazy. Politicians, greedy farmers, and drought, and these farmers don't stand down. Come on, man. Come on. You guys need to grow a heart. You guys need to have a conscience. You guys need to have some integrity, except just among yourselves and your little group of people. Your little mentality that you have amongst yourselves. It's the truth. It's the truth. I'm eyewitness to this, and I don't hear anybody saying what I'm saying. Nobody is saying put moratorium on well drilling. I haven't heard any. And I'm sure since this is a Democrat-controlled state, and Google and YouTube and Twitter and all them people are, and Facebook, every one of them are just Democrat-minded people. They live in cities and stuff. They don't care. They don't care. They like greedy farmers because it serves their purpose. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Y'all have a good day, and may the Lord bless you in all of your ways. Anybody out there listening to this that's a Christian, please pray for me. I need your prayers really bad. Thank you.